All right, I see the time is 10 o'clock and we can bring this meeting to order. Can you please take roll?
Yes, Chair Lang.
Yes, here, present.
Thank you. Director Foltz.
Present remotely.
Thank you. Duffy.
Yes, present.
Mickelson is absent. And Williams.
Present.
Thanks. We have a quorum.
All right, this portion of the meeting is reserved for public comment for anything that's not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments in the room? All right, and I see no one's online. So we can move to our first new business item, which is going to be the environmental department status reports.
Yeah. So I'll be taking that one. And yeah, essentially this is just kind of an update of where we are on a number of projects within the environmental department. Obviously some of the grant stuff carries over to engineering, because a lot of that is like doing actual projects. But as we are currently managing a lot of the grants, we include those. A few highlights I'll give you from this list. I'm not going to go through all of the items. We have the CAL FIRE Wildfire Prevention Grant. We applied for that about, I don't know, a month or two ago, and they've just come back and asked us for revisions. So we went ahead and submitted those. We're getting good indications from them that we are going to receive at least some of the money from that grant. We applied for about $900,000 for hazard tree removal on the 5 Mile pipeline, a shaded fuel break on the 5 Mile pipeline, as well as treatments on the access roads to the 5 Mile pipeline, and then defensible space around our infrastructure. We would also be getting $600,000 in CCC staff grant funding. And so essentially we would be getting a $1.5 million project. That's the goal. So hopefully we hear back from them soon on that one, but getting good indications.
Fingers crossed.
Another thing I would note is the PFAS settlement. So that's something that we applied for as part of a class action settlement. And we are set to receive about $360,000 for the first of the settlements. And there's a second settlement that we've also applied for. So we will see when we get the information on that one. But yeah, so there will be some money coming in from that, which is good. And then another note is our Olympia volunteer event. We are holding another one next month, and we've decided on November 15th as a date for that. With that, I will take any questions on any of the other number of items on this memo.
Okay, Williams, you want to start?
I'm sorry, when you say the memo, are you referring to this as a whole?
Yeah, just anything on the update.
Gotcha. I had a question on the grants that were not funded, mostly in the reasons why those ended up getting denied, and if there was anything that we could have done better there.
Yeah, that's a good question. Since I have been here, I haven't been involved in one that has been denied. So I'm not exactly sure. I think a lot of the times they don't give you reasoning, and I'm not sure that we have followed up in the past. So yeah, I can't speak to why we didn't receive any of those. A lot of the times it is just highly competitive grant solicitations.
Duffy?
Sure. The CAL FIRE Fuels grant, did we have to alter any acreage or any treatment aspects, or was that just a detailed kind of clarification on the request that came forward?
Yeah, so we did have to alter our treatments. We had initially just scoped it for the hazard tree removal along 5 Mile, because that's something that we will be doing regardless. And then kind of using the CCC work to remove those hazard trees as our match to get money for our fuels reduction around our infrastructure. CAL FIRE, it was kind of posed as a fuel break of sorts with the hazard tree removal. CAL FIRE was really interested in seeing an actual fuel break implemented. And so we added that kind of scope of work, is that the CCC would go in and actually kind of brush and limb up as they were going along for a portion of the pipeline. And that's also beneficial for us, as we're gonna be doing the portion that is near our Lion treatment plant. And kind of having a fuel break near our treatment plant is obviously beneficial.
So did that involve an increase in potential funding associated with this grant or a shift around of money?
Yeah, so when I had initially applied, we had included our match from the CCC as part of our budget because we weren't exactly clear how it was working. But after clarification with them, we removed that money, the match, from our budget, and so that opened up. I think we had like 450,000 in match as part of our budget. That opened up that whole 450 as another piece to add to the project. So that the fuel break is coming from that money.
And if I'm correct, we did okay a couple of fees associated with that grant. And if I'm correct, this is the one with the restroom, which was slightly less expensive than the Forester. Am I correct on that one?
Yes, yeah, so the hazard tree removal is what was approved. And so that project is already approved. These other parts of the grant application are not necessarily approved by our board yet.
Right.
But yes, the hazard tree removal portion has been approved.
I guess what I'm wondering is, are any of those, is the potential that the funds shift around or something could go to address some of the stuff that we approved that are outside of what the grant funding was already kind of slated for? I know it was only like $20,000, but can we recoup the outside costs of the
Oh,
consulting Forester and the restroom? Can that be
yes,
included?
that is all
Okay.
included in the grant.
Okay, so then we wouldn't be out of pocket in that regard.
No, yeah, so yes, so we all of our costs essentially from the hazard tree removal would be covered by the grant.
Thanks.
So we would be basically minimal out of pocket for this whole project. It would be hopefully none, but we'll see what they come back with.
Great, thank you very much.
Director Foltz?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for putting this together. As I found it very comprehensive, so that's really great. I did have a couple of follow-on questions to those that have been posed already. On the DWR small community drought relief, in parentheses, consolidation. I guess my question here is, I haven't heard much about consolidation with Brackenbray. I think it's tied up with whether or not FEMA is actually going to provide funds, which, as we know, is kind of a crapshoot right now. What kind of risk are we looking at here with DWR if, for whatever reason, due to FEMA not releasing the funds, we don't actually execute a consolidation, which was really the intent of the original grant?
I would say that for the work that we have completed, we've already received funds for the work that we've done. We submit that quarterly, and so we are, as time goes, we recoup our costs on a much shorter timeline than with the FEMA project. In terms of risk, I'm not exactly sure.
So I think the question that Director Foltz is asking is, if we're done, we spent the money that we got from the grant, and we have not consolidated fully with Brackenbray and Forest Springs, what will the state say? Because the money was for consolidation, right? So it'll.
Yeah, and I think, Jason, yeah, I think I think we only have to do one, maybe not both, but yeah, the risk is, what if we do neither?
Right, so our options are that, they're not gonna come and take the money. They're not gonna do that because we can show that we have spent the money towards achieving the consolidation. But what they probably will want to see is a direction on how we get to the final product of consolidation. So be that through other grant opportunities, or that they go with some sort of low interest loan that the district has to take out. I don't know what that's going to look like, but they're going to want to see a roadmap going forward on what the consolidation is.
Okay, but those options would, it sounds like, put the water district's current customer base on the hook for funding any kind of consolidation, which would involve upgrading presumably the infrastructure in Brackenbray. Or would we proceed with consolidation without upgrading the infrastructure?
yeah, those would be the options that are on the table, plus looking at what it would be to do an assessment district with that low interest fund loan.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, but they haven't made any noises about wanting money back if there's no consolidation achieved, so that's good. Yeah. Um, on the hardening of water lines, I'm not sure I understand the bullet point, but I wanted to make sure that I got clarification on it. It says here that the project determined to be infeasible, stopping new work. This is for the Bennett and Lompico supply lines.
Correct.
So what do we mean by that?
Yeah, so essentially, we've gone through kind of the survey process. And for this grant, the next step would be to actually design how we're gonna bury these pipelines. But based on the survey and kind of just looking at the feasibility of actually burying the pipelines, we determined that it's not actually gonna be feasible. Some of the slopes are too steep, and the whole pipelines would not be able to be buried. It would only be sections if we were to move forward with this, which in the case of a fire, having only sections of your pipeline buried is not necessarily the most helpful, because then, you know, if it burns, you just have to dig up the other part, especially with this plastic pipe and concerns about, you know, fire interacting with that. So essentially we are going to our goal is to kind of stop new work on this project, stop spending, and yeah, just kind of get the money from the grant that we can.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that because of some of the slopes, it wouldn't be feasible to actually work on the slopes. The pipe could be on top of those slopes, but we can't actually dig into those slopes in a reasonable fashion.
Yes, the pipes are already on top of the slopes. But yeah, just digging in and burying it is not going to be yeah, feasible.
Even if we're talking about only needing about, what, 18 inches of cover?
Yeah, some of the slopes, especially at Bennett, are just like you can't really even walk it. So I'm not, it would be, yeah, basically
Okay.
infeasible to actually bury this pipe.
So no hand digging would be possible in that case. What about a hybrid approach on the materials? Would we be able to use uh, plastic underground, and then where it did have to go above ground, putting in some sort of a fire resistant material?
I do not know. I don't have an answer on that one.
I mean, yes, it's obviously a possibility. I don't know what the cost of and change of scope that would be, but it is definitely a possibility.
You're gonna have an extreme grade where nobody's gonna be able to dig by hand. You're not gonna be able to bring in machines to bring in iron pipe
You got
either.
the airlift
So
to do.
Very heavy,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just wanting to make sure that we've looked at all of the possibilities and said, for whatever reason, there's no feasible way to do this, because when the next fire goes through, of course, we're going to be, you know, doing it all over again. So then I guess the next step might be doing more fuel load clearing around these pipes then to reduce the possibility of them being burned in the future. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a reasonable approach.
Okay.
well, I'm sorry, I haven't looked into it, but is there any kind of applicable cladding that can be applied to the outside of these?
Yeah, I don't know what would be a go around the pipe that would be able to be affixed to it and not heat up the pipe to a point where it's gonna melt anyway.
It's a ceramic insulator, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah,
if we do that on only the exposed above ground sections in a hybrid approach, that might be more feasible.
It's a great question, one we've posed in the past when the 5 Mile Line's piped, but I don't know that we have a clear picture on what is possible. Next question was on the Loch Lomond feasibility study being on hold, which from my perspective is fine, given that we don't really have any numbers yet from the City of Santa Cruz Water Department on what they want to charge for treated versus raw water. Are those topics part of the initial discussion that was held with the City of Santa Cruz Water Department?
There were many topics discussed and options thrown out, talking about trading of water and everything. So I don't have anything official or concrete yet, but yeah, it was discussed.
Okay, yeah, okay, great. So I mean, they hopefully they recognize that it's hard to decide which way to go without knowing what the numbers are.
Right.
Okay, next one is on the CIP project permitting number 1C. I wasn't sure what was meant by if we don't have a grant for this work in future years, it should be renewed. I'm not sure I understand that.
Yeah, so essentially we, in 2023, I believe, we had a contract for fuel reduction around our infrastructure. However, this year, and hopefully in the other grant we were talking about previously, we'll fund that work in the next couple of years. But if in a year we don't have funding to do this fuel reduction around our infrastructure, that's something that either we should carry out in-house or that we should contract out for.
Oh, I see. It's more of a funding source. So if we don't have grant money, that's something that the district would have to pay for it out of its own funds.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to say there.
Okay, gotcha. Well, and I agree with that, absolutely. I mean, the fuel reduction, once you get it done once, hopefully the maintenance of it is a very fast and lower cost effort
Yeah.
to just maintain it. On the HCP, good to hear significant progress has been made, but I'm not sure I understand what additional operational questions were there that served for as a roadblock for years, and
Yeah.
what attempts were made to get those answered.
Yeah. So largely for any of these environmental processes, but especially for the HCP, you need to know what your project is before you can actually permit it. And so our project out there is a number of things. It's maintaining our pipelines. It's considering if we're going to be drilling new wells. It's maintaining our wells, our roads. Basically, all of our operations in the Sandhills is going to be covered under this. And so, and for a 25-year period. So essentially, we need to account for anything that, any type of work that we'll possibly be doing in the next 25 years. And there were a number of questions about whether we would be drilling new wells, what kind of maintenance, anything along those lines, that our previous operations team just could not answer. Essentially, we had a number of meetings and didn't show up, to put it bluntly. So yeah, essentially it was just trying to get that information on what the district actually wanted to do operationally in the Sandhills in the future. And now I think we kind of have a vision of what that will be.
Well, I mean, without putting too fine a point on it, why would we just not put in anything we could possibly think of, including, I think, both the Valley Gardens project and possibly even the Haven would want to take advantage of this as well, right? I mean, those are would be part of that whole area. So I mean, I have not heard of there being any kind of questions about this previously as to being an issue for things. Is this well, we can cover it, I think, offline in more detail, but I mean, this is really troubling. That we wouldn't just say, hey, we're going to be doing pipelines. Well, we're going to do it all in the next 25 years. We don't have to know exactly what we're doing. We just have to brainstorm what all the possibilities are.
Well, if we account for more projects, more happening, then we need to devote more of our land to those projects. And that is valuable land to us that could be used to, mitigate for other projects and bring in revenue, or, it doesn't make sense for us to mitigate more than we need unless we're looking to sell the extra or something along those lines. So they also want us to describe the projects that we will be doing, because they don't want, the point of this is that they kind of can mitigate, we're mitigating for what we're doing, and it goes back to defining what your project is so that you can actually mitigate it, not just saying, oh, you know, we'll just be doing our normal stuff. It's kind of defining what you are doing so that you can mitigate for it.
Well, I think I would like to see what those projects are that we have put in there, that we might be doing over the next 25 years. This is a significant thing for us. And I would like to see which ones we addressed.
Okay.
On the solar panels, what's the issue with the solar panels?
Yeah, so a few of the panels at our different arrays are broken. And then we also, they're just kind of old. Some of the inverters were not functioning. So we wanted to get a system check done and just make sure that everything was functioning properly, see what our options for replacing the broken panels were. And yeah, just kind of make sure that we were getting the most efficiency out of them possible. And yeah, so we had Sandbar Solar come out and do a quick assessment of the system, and they had a number of recommendations on how we could improve it and make it safer.
Are we also doing an ROI calculation in this? I think we've installed the solar panels under some kind of a grant or possibly a loan. Are we also looking at whether or not the solar panels that in the place that they're located are really going to deliver the financial benefits that were used to sell the project in the first place?
I did some I'll say back of the napkin calculations, and based on those, it seemed that we were making profit at this point because they have been in there for a long time, and our loan has been paid off for them. So that is my understanding. Now I'm no financial whiz, but yeah, that's my general
Okay.
understanding.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, back the envelope is a good way to sort of assess whether or not you're in the ballpark. But a discounted cash flow ROI might be helpful as well. Okay, next one is the PFAS, which is the claim we're getting, which is very good. But what's our PFAS exposure basically in the water? Are we testing for that, and are we seeing anything that's significant?
Yes, we do test for it. And we had one hit at one of our wells, which is largely what we are using for this, or why we're essentially getting funding for this. But it was below the MCL, and or I'm not sure there is an MCL for, it's below the recommended whatever.
MCLG if it's not MCL.
Okay. And yeah, Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
No, yeah, I Jesse took me out to the well and explained the situation, but it was one well and it was slightly above the recommendation or the goal.
Mhm. Was that a well in Olympia?
Yes.
We have a whole write-up from Jesse that went to the board and as a no.
Yeah, I think it's quail, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be quail.
Quail. Okay, great. And then the last thing is on a lot of these other activities you're working on, Chris. What is the net benefit to the district on these? So the Mountain Stewardship Network, Fire Safe Council, do we pay anything into it? Are they doing things for us? What's the general benefit here for the district?
Yeah. So the Stewardship Network, I'll address first. That is a network of all the local landowners and land managers in the mountains. This is really important for collaboration and networking. We do pay into this every year as part of the network. But I think also getting, like, for instance, the grant that we submitted recently, we had letters of support from a number of the entities within the Stewardship Network, as well as the network itself. And I think having buy-in from all of those players, as well as, like for instance, our partnership with the RCD is largely catalyzed by being in this network. I find it to be a really valuable asset for us. And yeah, if you're interested in more, the network director will come to boards and give presentations on what the network is. So if you're interested in that, we could definitely set it up.
Yeah, I mean, if these are things that allow us to get more grant money, that sort of thing, that'd be great. And I'm not familiar with them as much, obviously, as you are. So I just wanted to get a little bit more information on them. Okay, the last thing on the grants, I noticed that our bulk of the funding is in three areas: the consolidation, redwood tanks, and fish ladder. That was about 75% of the funding for those three things. What I still don't see, and maybe this is going to be coming in some of the new grant applications, is how we fund our CIP, which is mostly, if you look at the raw numbers, mostly around pipeline, not raw water pipeline, but treated water pipeline. I don't see a lot of grants around that. So that's something that I am concerned about, because if you look at our infrastructure, the $450 million more or less, about 75% of it is just pipes. So we probably need to have another conversation within the context of the grant strategy as to how we're going about grants in the future, because we don't have a lot of redwood tank or fish ladder or real consolidation, feasible consolidation activities available right now, which was 75% of the grants that we've received so far.
Agreed. Yeah. Essentially, we're waiting for those opportunities to materialize. We can't apply for grants that aren't being solicited.
Right. So in the meantime, we just have to put together our plan as if there are no grants for the pipes and proceed that way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my conclusion anyway. Okay. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the going through that in some details. Great to see your reports.
Okay, I'm gonna make my comments quick. I forgot to say at the beginning, I have a hard stop at 11. So I have some ongoing health issues and lots of appointments. I hadn't announced that to this, but I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer, just so this committee kind of understands. So I showed up today for you guys to meet quorum. So you kind of answered like a lot of what I had, and I just wanted to follow up with one of the things that Bob said. I believe that Garrett had stated at one time that they are aware that that loan that we got, it wasn't going to complete consolidation, and that they were okay with that. And also when you said about low interest loans being held by us, I really think that needs to be on the consolidating districts and not on our
Right,
ratepayers.
that's why
So,
you just
yeah.
assessment district.
Yeah. And you followed up with that, but I just want to our ratepayers. So kind of talked a little bit about the conjunctive use. Why is this on hold? You're just waiting for those numbers? Is that what the conclusion was?
Yeah, I'll let Jason speak.
Yeah, so, I mean, to finish the EIR requires an actual scope of work to be lined out, and we're working with the city of Santa Cruz to see exactly what it's gonna look like to trade the Loch Lomond water and everything like that, so that we can put it together.
Okay. All right. And then I guess when we got this money from the PFAS settlement, how are we going to be applying that money? Where's that money going to go?
So that has not been determined yet. However, it's not a lump sum, I will say. It's kind of a yearly payout for, I don't know, spread out over
20 years.
Yeah, I don't know, an amount of time. It's not like we're just getting $300,000.
Yeah.
It'll be spread out over time.
Okay.
You could probably factor that, but yeah, that's how they get away. They basically buy an annuity and pay it out.
Okay. All right. Then we can move on to public comment. We have one person in the room. Do you have any public comments? See none and see none online. We can move to our next agenda item, which is to the integrated pest management policy workshop.
So essentially I wanted to bring this item. we are planning to have our integrated pest management policy workshop. Our tentative date for that is November 25th from 1 to 3 p.m. First of all, I want to check that date and time with you all, because this will be held as a special environmental committee meeting, but rather than a meeting, it'll be a workshop, so that there's no time limits on public speakers, and public input is what it'll be for, so it'll obviously be encouraged. So first of all, I wanted to check the date, but then I also wanted to see if you all had any recommendations on how to actually hold the workshop, whether you have any specific questions or like discussion prompts, or just any recommendations in general.
Start with you, Duffy.
Okay. First of all, the date is rough. That's Thanksgiving week. A lot of people are gonna be out of town. And recognizing this is a public meeting, it's also my wife's birthday. So I would prefer if we,
On that
if
note.
I would prefer if we moved it to a different timeline. However, I recognize I am not the straw that stirs the drink here. As far as, they're pretty wide open. It should be, I'd like at least us to put forward the questions directly that need to be answered. And otherwise you just have a sprawling kind of situation. So we should put at least one or two very existential questions regarding what we're doing here, so we don't just sit here and yell at each other.
Yeah.
I also would love to see, if we're discussing herbicide, would love to see somebody from the Santa Cruz Ag Commissioner's office, somebody there who's associated with pesticide regulation, herbicide regulation, because I feel like that would be the best neutral discussion on what the regulations are and how things are applied. That's all.
Williams.
Really establishing the goals, like Michael was saying. Otherwise it's going to be too spread out and nothing will get done. Well, yeah.
How does that date work for you?
Date and time are fine with me. I'm pretty flexible for the month. That's
Okay. Director Foltz.
Sorry, Chris, the Zoom cut out when you were saying the date and time.
So the one I proposed was November 25th from 1 to 3 p.m. However, committee member Duffy recommended we choose a different date.
November 25th, that would be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Which
Yeah,
is
I had my concerns about this, and so you were also talking about having it at 10 in the morning, is that correct?
1 to 3 p.m.
1 to 3. So, a meeting like this where we're doing a workshop where we're actually getting public participation, that really needs to be an evening meeting, and structured more around, I think, a board meeting type thing, so that everybody can participate. Having it as a committee meeting in the middle of the day, you're not going to get, people are working. You're simply not going to get as much participation in it as if you had an evening meeting. The workshop that we had on this topic back in 2017 was in fact an evening meeting, and I think it was held in the Felton Community Center. And it not that I'm saying we have to hold it in Felton, but it had a very, very large audience, and I think a lot of that had to do with it being in the evening. Do like the suggestions made previously about, what are the topics we're talking about here that we want to incorporate in the integrated pest management plan. I think a lot of it is going to have to be around the use of rodenticides or herbicides, and herbicides of various kinds. To me, that really is going to be the crux of the discussion of what is it are we going to agree to be used. Since we, as we talked about the last time, used a herbicide of some kind recently. So that's, to me, the really critical things. I think the ones that are going to, the topics that are going to draw people out. I think that even though this might be structured as a board meeting with respect to notice and in the evening and that sort of thing, I like the idea that public participation be encouraged. There would be opportunities for people to comment multiple times. And there should probably be some limits, but for the most part, I haven't found too many people to talk as long as the time limit, only a few people. And so I think we need to be very, very flexible about this because the idea is to make it a real community type event. I would also make sure that the advertisement for this in the district website is very, very prominent, sort of not, buried somewhere. And also, one thing I've mentioned before that I think would be really critical is for the district to do outreach through the Facebook and Nextdoor neighborhood groups. I mean, I'm a member of a number of them. I can certainly provide you with the uh, contact information for them. But I find that people read those a lot, and they tend to have hundreds to thousands of members in them. And it's just a great way to get to people very fast who may not be necessarily following the San Lorenzo Valley Water District's Facebook page as closely as they are the neighborhood pages. So, yeah, and also I think we need to make sure this is advertised well in advance. So I like the fact that you were thinking later in November, except for the Thanksgiving issue. Maybe we push it into the first week, possibly early second week of December, before we get into the Christmas holidays.
Alternately, I would suggest that maybe the evening of Friday the 21st might be suitable as well.
I
Tend not to like Friday nights for meetings, just because of it being Friday end of week. Monday nights, Monday night football during the football season. I mean, there's,
Thursday night football.
we could
Thursday night
easily, we
football.
could easily do this around a board meeting timeframe, if necessary.
How would the first week of December look for you all?
Fine with me.
Yeah, it's all good.
I can only do the first and the second. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I do not know because the first round of my chemo ends 1, 2, 3, ends the 26th. And I have to go into harder chemo after that. So I don't know. The 25th does work for me. I know that I could do December 1st and 2nd, and I hadn't gotten to speak yet. Also as well. So I just want to say that Santa Cruz has done some studies on glyphosate. So I would like to see those presented and any available resources, available on the research of pesticides and everything in general in our water systems. And we absolutely need time limits on speakers, so we don't get into the weeds on this thing, pun intended. Yeah, I think I could definitely do the December 1st and 2nd there.
And I'll note on the City of Santa Cruz studies that we have reached out to them for those and they have denied us. So we will not have access to those.
Be helpful if I talk to Chris Ferry.
Yeah, you could certainly try.
I can't deny us anymore.
I have a good relationship with him, so I'll talk to him. How's the 1st and 2nd work
First
for
and second will work for me.
Okay.
Fine.
Director Foltz?
Yeah, on that question about the studies, I mean, aren't those public documents? They would be subject to public records laws.
They were never brought to a board meeting or released publicly.
Ah,
And so that's what I've heard is that they are internal documents that were not made public.
This is why I
Ooh.
really push that we maintain good relationships with our partners within the county.
Interesting. Okay, those would have to have been done. I mean, this is a interesting public records thing because the only way they could withhold those is if they were done under confidentiality like their attorneys did the agreement. I think under Public Records Act, they can't withhold things like that. Interesting.
To shift gears on the public outreach, we are gonna put it on the spotlight of the main district webpage, so it'll be on the very first thing you see as you log on to the web.
Excellent.
All right, so I see no, wait, for the comments here, go out to the public. Go ahead. You go up to the. Should I have another document?
About the comments on the different times for the public.
Mhm.
And just speaking from a working parent, it's nice to see possibly 2 different days and or 2 different times. More of the 1 to 3 and then the later date, because people do work that 9 to 5. Who would want to participate in that. So I don't know if 2 dates are available or 2 different times are available, but just to reach out to more variety of people that want.
Sorry, I'm double checking to make sure I. Oh, I did have something. What did we say the
First or second.
first? Oh, please stop going. December 2nd, I have from 4 to 5:30 blocked out.
We can shoot for Monday then.
Would you be available the first?
Might miss a good football game.
Yeah, yeah, I'm available. I'm available the first, and I'm available anytime outside of that. It's gonna be a phone appointment for that amount of time, so I can shoot right out over whichever direction after. So if
Let's
you want-
shoot for the first. Start the new month off strong.
What are all my doctor's
And
appointments?
I just realized I actually did have a follow-up I didn't get earlier, but this is, I think Jason can answer this one earlier. Are we gonna be able to do the solar improvements in-house or?
I don't know, we'll have to get with the electricians, because a lot of times when you have the solar panels,
We-
they're
We
designed.
have moved on to the next agenda topic, so I don't want to.
Okay.
Can we follow this up offline?
Of course.
Sorry. I just don't want to get back off of this line item. Okay, so we're aiming for the first.
Yeah.
All right, and you'll send out some times later?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
maybe like a board meeting, like
Okay,
6:30 to 8, Jenna? How does,
I have soccer practice from 5 to 6. I head coach. Oh, wait, you said 6:30 though? I could do 6:30. Yeah, okay.
6:30 to 8?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I got too much going on.
That will be the Giants versus the Patriots. If anything.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
that's
no.
fine.
all right.
Yeah, if you care about that game, you have a problem. You should go get help.
All right, so I think we went out for public comment, we've come up with a date and time. I think we can move on to unfinished business. We have just enough time to go on to the revised draft of the neighbor hazard tree policy.
Yeah, and Janelle will be presenting that.
So this will be brief. We made some revisions to the policy based on the recommendations and suggestions from the last environmental committee meeting in September. The 3 main additions are to be more consistent with our policy, especially policy related to public cooperation, collaboration. We added the adoption and adoption date on the title page. Right now it's empty since we haven't taken it to the board. We also added a modification section for in the future, if the policy is changed, we can summarize those changes in that section. And we added the appeals section, which will have an appeals process that the public neighbors can follow if they want to, they don't agree with whatever is decided based on policy. And then some other changes we made were in 2 main sections. So we made changes to the hazard tree management section. In the previous version, we talked a lot about the current management, but we realized it would be more beneficial to talk about what are the steps to take based on this policy. So we kind of modified it, adapting the current management and fine-tuned it for this specific situation, which is neighbor trees. And we also added, based on recommendations, to have some sort of tracking. So that'd be to track the trees that we identified as moderate and not to be mitigated immediately. And so we'll maintain a list of that with reinspection about every 2 years. And then we also made a few additions to the hazard tree rating section. Mainly, we wanted to explain the matrix a little better. We realized that maybe there wasn't enough explanation there. So we kind of defined the consequences aspect of the table. And then gave a few examples of some negligible and some extreme consequences. And those are just some of the main changes we made. So with that, I open it to any questions or comments.
Okay, well, Duffy, I think you have the most experience on this, so
I've got a lot of trees following me. Thank you. Okay, I was trying to look for the exact line that I was reading earlier, but I saw something in the effect that if a landowner, an adjacent landowner, didn't want a hazard tree cut, they could sign off liability. And I'm trying to figure out exactly where that was. If you're familiar with what I'm referring to.
I did.
3C.
I have concerns with that, being that I'm not sure that once a tree is determined to be a hazard tree, I don't know that a landowner signing off saying that's okay relieves us of our liability. And what happens if that person sells their house? What happens if somebody's visiting them and a tree falls on their car? Are we still absolved of liability? I feel like once it has been determined that a tree is a hazard tree, we need to treat it like a hazard tree. And I just don't know that, unless another arborist is going to argue that that tree is no longer a hazard tree, I don't feel like we are absolved of our liability just because a landowner wants a tree to be standing. And that's my primary concern.
From a legal perspective, he's probably right. I have a background in business law, and yeah, we would not be able to argue against negligence in that case. It's something that was predetermined and pre-known.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, you can just continue with your comments if you had any on that then.
No,
No
much
comments?
I looked at on that.
Okay, Director Fultz?
Yeah, that's a good point about the liability. It might be a question to ask the district council. I mean, it's possible that if they signed off on something that was recorded against as a, basically a cloud in the title against the property that would run with the property, but I'm skeptical we could release ourselves of entire liability, being the deep pockets area. I would not really want to go down that path anyway. I think it was a lot of these improvements are great. Thank you for doing that. Sounds like there was a fair amount of changes, so a red line in that case wouldn't have been very beneficial. Just a small nit on the modification section. I think it's helpful to have a table of the versions that you run through. And you start the table off with, version 1, which is the initial approval and the date associated with it. That table typically has a column for summary of what the changes were to the document. I can send you an example of that separately. But other than that, I think we're ready to. I think we're ready to go to the board with this. I thought it was a very good piece of work.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely run by legal what Duffy has brought up as concerns, especially like what happens if someone sells the property. That's a very good point. But everything looked good to me. It was kind of hard for me to, I guess I could have read the one from last meeting again, but it was hard for me to track changes, but it looked good. So thank you for the work that you put into this. And to go out to public comment, we have one person in the room, no public comment, no one online. So we can move to committee comments for, oh, go ahead.
Could we recommend that goes or vote on that going to the
I
board?
don't know, was that motion written in a way? Oh, stack rep, yes, it is. Okay, I move that we recommend the board of directors adopt the neighbor hazard tree policy.
Do you want to make that motion with the caveat of taking it to legal to ensure that that is addressed.
Yeah, so with, and take it to legal to make sure that about our liability.
I second.
Okay, roll call vote. Chair Lane,
Yes.
Director Foltz,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Mickelson, absent, Williams,
Yes.
passes unanimously?
4-0, one absent.
Okay, we're
All right, now we can move to committee comments. So this is reserved for general comments from the committee and or for requesting future agenda items. Do we have anyone that would like to say anything at this?
No.
Oh,
All right, well, we really only have one more meeting besides the workshop, and so I really have appreciated all you guys serving on this, and I think before we meet as a committee, we will already have applications out for next year, so I encourage all of you guys to apply again, and I've really appreciated all your input. I think this has been one of the better environmental committees that we've had here. We've had a lot of great input, so thank you guys. Did you have anything, Bob, on the, at all just before we leave? might call on
No,
you.
because other than requesting future agenda items, I think this topic is a dangerous one relative to the Brown Act, general purpose comments and that sort of thing. So I would tend not to do that. I think we should reserve this just for requesting future agenda items.
Okay, it went through legal, so it was approved. All right, well, I,
Well, we'll, there's still questions about this relative to the scope of what can be done and providing guidance. You'll see that when, well, we'll just have that conversation in the future. That's it.
okay, well, I think we can call this a meeting adjourned at 10:51.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.